Welcome to another episode on What Makes a Woman. I'm here with a very special guest. She's a marketing communications expert and adjacent professor at FIT. Sabrina Marzaro lives between Paris and New York City. She wrote her new book, Swiping for Prince Charming. Through her extensive experience in luxury and communications, she has worked with companies such as LVMH, Richemont, Macan, Young and Rubicon, and Condé Nast in Italy, the UK, the US, and France. She's president and founder of Graphite and Ink, a branding, copywriting, and translations company based in Paris. As an established copywriter specialized in luxury, fashion, and cosmetics, her work for brands such as Guerlain, Clarins, and L'Oreal, amongst others, has been published internationally. Without further ado, please welcome Sabrina Marzaro.
Hi, Liana. It's so lovely to be here, so thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for making the time to come. We have met through Instagram, the power of social media. Thank you so much for finding the interest in...
Well, it's exciting to be part of this series of women inspiring women in particular.
Absolutely. I really get like a natural high, as you say, like to speak to women that are accomplished, that can teach the emerging female entrepreneurs how you are in the space you are today, what made you the woman that you are today, and essentially what inspired you to even... Let's start from your book. What inspired you to write Swiping for Prince Charming?
So, long story short, essentially, after I'd been in an extensive relationship for several years, and after that I had taken up dating, and throughout this journey I journal for personal use, and so I'm a writer by profession, but also really in my heart. And I had set myself this sort of objective for 2019 to publish a book. I didn't know exactly about what, and it just so happened that with this in mind, I guess ingrained in the back of my head, a small story, but I was supposed to one day have lunch with someone that I still felt very strongly for, that perhaps has inspired a character in this book. And I'd been anxiously awaiting this day for 2 weeks, and so nervous, what am I going to wear, what's going to look like, etc., what's going to happen. And the morning of, I woke up with a horrible fever, and I was so frustrated and I was so upset, and so I was writing, just journaling and writing all my frustrations about life and dating and men, etc., and it just started to pour out in this very poetic manner. And I continued to write nonstop, and when I got to the end, all of a sudden I looked at the page and I went, oh my God, I have something. And I just instantly had this vision of transforming it into an illustrated story and sharing that with other women, to accompany them on this journey, to remind them that yes, it has its ups and downs, but it's meant to make you smile, and that this entire adventure helps bring you to the point where you become the woman you were supposed to be, that you were all along. So. And
that is very inspirational. Walk us through the very first steps it takes to write a book.
Okay, well, there are different routes. I personally, as I mentioned, the work itself, the text itself came very naturally, sort of this artistic moment. But after that, I needed to find the correct illustrator. So that was reaching out through friends of friends' friends, being able to sense that she had the right aesthetic, because I had a very clear image in mind. For every single page, she never read the text until it went for publication. So I would brief her in specific detail exactly what I wanted, sending photos, images, etc. Then I had to find out, how am I going to publish this? And so I had to attend different conferences and do a lot of research online to see the different options, if I wanted to go through a certain publishing house, etc. Then I had to find someone to format the book. I needed to tend to all the legal matters, copyright, etc. And then finally send it in for publication. And then when you get the final product, how to market that.
Voila!
Yes, so.
So I know you spent most of your life in Paris.
Yeah, the last 10 years, so third, yeah.
That's a beautiful city. So this book was inspired in Paris?
Yes, it was. My adventures took place there, and so I decided that the book is also a love letter to Paris with beautiful illustrations of the city, my favorite places.
Now, when the man that it potentially motivated you to write this, did you meet him by swiping?
I did.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And do you recommend swiping to take place? I mean, what is the theme of the story in a nutshell?
The theme of the story, really, it's the search for love, a woman's search for love. It happens to be, in this case, through dating apps, but really it applies to any woman searching for love and going on dates, etc. And so it's really something that, for me, is sort of a message I would give to my girlfriends, or that it's meant to be the perfect pick-me-up, and it's just meant to make you laugh and be a very lighthearted way of visiting this topic.
Well, this is something that I can definitely relate to because I'm coming out from a breakup myself. So
I'm there with you. I understand, and it means that it wasn't the right one. There will be something better.
One door closes, 10 more will open.
Yes.
And I always say that the universe has so much planned for you. And when it does close, there's a reason why it happens. You shouldn't be resisting that. It's a sign.
Yes. And I think it's an important part to be able to develop enough self-awareness that you can recognize that it wasn't right and why, and to be able to move forward having faith in yourself. So
that is very strong. You can definitely be a relationship coach after this.
Well, I don't know. I have not yet found the right person, but I can say all the different adventures that led me here were definitely worthwhile.
Absolutely. So now a little bit about your background. You are originally from...
Well, I'm half Italian and half American. I grew up in the States, but my father's from Venice. So I had this multicultural household, and I was always very drawn to Europe and that lifestyle, going there every summer to visit family, etc. So I happened to grow up in an environment that had a strong appreciation for the arts and fashion because my father worked in the luxury footwear sector. So I grew up surrounded by beautiful shoes and just loving this craftsmanship. And I knew that I wanted to find a way to bring my passion for the arts and fashion together. And so I did that by actually first doing a number of internships in the luxury fashion sector, and then starting to get also into communications and marketing, because I realized that really it's the same idea of creating a dream and finding ways to communicate something that's beautiful and touching someone, building relationships with consumers.
So what was the very first company that you feel like you resonated with?
Well, the first one, my first full-time job was with a company called Recommit, which is a luxury leather goods firm for whom I was product manager. And they are more known in the B2B realm because they create the watch straps for most of the big luxury watch houses. And so I was working with them also on their, primarily on their leather goods line, handbags, small leather goods. And after a couple years there, I, for personal reasons, decided to move to the south of France, to Nice. And so in that moment, I said, you know what, I've been doing translations on the side. I'll just keep developing this the time it takes me to find, in quotes, a real job. And so I was cold calling all these different brands and agencies, and they tested my work, and they said, look, we love how you write, but we don't need a translator. We need a copywriter, an English-speaking copywriter. Could you do this? I said, absolutely. I'd never done it before in my life.
I love that. Say yes and then learn it.
Exactly. And look, it's been going so well. It's been 5 years. I'm still working a lot with that one main client every week, new projects. And then I have expanded that to tons of different agencies and brands, pitching them on that particular service. So that's what takes up most of my time.
So what advice would you give the female entrepreneurs?
Gosh, there are so many though. But for me personally, what's worked well has been to seize every opportunity and to know that, and to remain very curious. Just constantly be absorbing things all around you, information that might not seem very relevant or useful right now. You don't know if 2-3 years down the line that will serve you for some larger purpose.
That's my motto. I feel that everything stems from curiosity.
Yes.
That's why you'll always be adventurous.
You have to be, as an entrepreneur, you have to be ready to jump into the unknown. That's your everyday life.
Absolutely. I think that's super crucial for all the women that are listening to. And, don't be afraid to take that leap of faith. Listen to your gut instinct, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If that call, you knew you were meant to write, but you didn't know where to put yourself under what category.
Yes.
And so you didn't limit yourself when they said, hey, copywriting something. That's being an open-minded, that's something that will always lead you to success.
Yes.
So now that you're in Paris, you've worked in communications and marketing. What made you move to New York?
So for a while, I was living between New York and Paris, going back every nearly 3 weeks, essentially, for a project here. And on one of my trips here, I happened to encounter a lovely woman, Elizabeth Hunter, from FIT, New York's Fashion Institute of Technology. And so we were speaking, and she, at the end of this conversation, said, I think you'd be a phenomenal professor. Send me your resume, I'll send it to my boss. And well, one thing led to another. I had a few rounds of interviews, and they wanted me to come and teach marketing here at the university. So I absolutely could not refuse such an offer. I mean, it was an incredible honor. And so 2 months ago, I moved back to New York in order to pursue this project here.
Lovely. So now that you're a professor, congratulations.
Thank you.
Walk us through, how do you come up with ideas? How do you teach your class? What inspires you to do a day-to-day lesson? And does it get boring? I mean, sometimes you have to switch up the topics, right? So It doesn't become like a routine.
Of course. So I have to say that I'm very lucky to begin with, that I have really wonderful students that I connect with. And I think that anytime that you have to give a presentation in any manner, you really feed off of your audience's energy, if you will. And so seeing them when they're engaged really inspires me in that moment. But in order to develop the content for each week, I have a textbook which serves as sort of the guiding thread. So I know the topics I have to cover. But I personally find that it's so important to understand how these theories and principles are applied. So I make it a point to do a lot of research on my own to find various companies that I can integrate into the class lecture to explain how they're used, or even from my own personal experiences, and then give them either activities or ways that they can use it to come up with their own innovative ideas.
Can you give us a little run, like a run through of a marketing 101? How was that? How can you explain marketing 101?
Well, for me, something that we sort of, like we mentioned before, marketing is really about creating a connection with someone else. Because for me, good marketing, because to build a brand, you have to understand, like a person, the personality of this brand and exactly what it stands for and who it is, and then finding the right people that it can connect with, and finding ways to communicate that in a way that resonates with them. And so, yes, that means obviously from the communications perspective, how do you, in terms of tone of voice or in terms of the images, but it also then, you have to take into account everything along the entire supply chain. And so there's a lot of the back end stuff that you need to consider. So marketing is very, very broad, and I try to make my students see all the different opportunities that they could have if they want to pursue a career in that field, that it's not just advertising, for instance.
But your niche is more fashion?
That's, yes, luxury, fashion, cosmetics. Those are really my specialties. And thankfully, this university, obviously being focused on fashion, that's what most of the students want to talk about. And so those are the things that I draw from in particular.
What are some of the challenges that you face while teaching? I mean, I know it's brand spanking new to you.
Yes.
You know, it's something that, again, you had no idea how to do, but you learn as you go, and you say, yes, I can do it. So what are some of the things you feel like? I'm sure everyone has those moments of fear. Of course,
especially, before taking on this role, I was nervous because, I haven't had the chance to, I've done corporate presentations for students in universities before, but never teaching step-by-step marketing in particular. And so, the challenges are really, for me, it's constantly developing the new content because every week you want it to be really engaging. And I could just work from the book and that's it. But for me, that I like to push myself much further and to make it something that they can really relate to and understand. So it's really just finding the ideas to integrate each week, the good connections and examples of everything.
Well, not everything that is digital in the world.
Yes.
And you teach a lot of millennials.
Yes.
So it's basically integrating that with the digital marketing space, right? To engage them, say more Instagram maybe, because a lot of the marketing is Instagram and digital marketing.
Yes.
I think the marketing that was taught like 4 or 5 years ago even.
Totally irrelevant now.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like you're going to be introducing a whole different concept of marketing is. You know, Gary Vee took it to a different level. Jasmine Stars, another mentor that I have, she took it to another level. Everything is integrated with digital. So I feel that when you are running out of ideas, you know, who knows? Maybe you'll have guest speakers come to you.
I have actually, yes, thankfully.
Like?
So we had someone from La Mer, from L'Oreal, to come and speak about their products and how they develop new products. We had also someone from Era New York, which is a sustainable and vegan footwear line that has recently launched. So I try every once in a while to have someone come in to show their perspective on the industry.
Or maybe now you have someone from hospitality that can come.
Yes,
and
please.
teach.
You're more than welcome to. I'd be honored.
You know, it was such a dream. You know, I'm an accessory designer.
Uh-huh.
So I have a line of luxury accessories, and I've always wanted to be part of FIT. You know, I'm self-taught. I've never went to school for it.
Really?
I dropped out of college, but it taught myself. It was always in me. I knew how to draw, I knew how to design. You know, I have the eye for art, and you just have to be persistent and not be afraid. You know, follow your passion.
Absolutely. I did see your lace pieces online.
They're really beautiful, great! Thank you. Amazing.
But I think that is such an important point that you touch on, the fact that you need to be persistent. And I think in any field, especially as an entrepreneur, what makes the difference between someone that is successful and someone that is not is really this question of resilience. And it's something that, I don't know if you ever listened to How I Built This, a great podcast about different entrepreneurs. And there was the gentleman that created Dyson vacuums. And he said something that I thought was really interesting because he used to run track. And he said that he sort of created a parallel between being an entrepreneur and building a business versus running track. He said, everyone starts out at the same line, let's say, and they're all running. And it's the moment where everyone you start to get a little tired, that you want to quit. That's really the exact moment that you need to kick it up and keep going, because that's the point where everyone else is feeling that same fatigue, and that's where they quit.
100%. I think I heard that from Arnold Schwarzenegger or Muhammad Ali. One of them said that when you're working out and you feel that pain, that's not the time to stop.
Right.
That's a time to actually go further and add more, 3 times more. That's when you know that your body is asking for more. A lot of people stop when they're hurting. I think that's what's messing up the whole psychological perspective. It's like, okay, I'm tired. No, you're not tired. I tell my son the same thing. He's studying for something, a test. He's like, oh, I think I'm tired. I got enough of this. I'm like, no, this is just like the tipping point. You have to be persistent, and you got to teach him from a young age. I mean, I was never taught that. I think a lot of things now, it's just like more out there.
Yes.
And we learn a lot from videos, inspirational, motivational videos. I think that's super crucial.
Definitely. It is, if I may just feed off of that, to say that, as you say, it's so important to know to keep going. And at the same time, also, when that pain sets in, I think it's also important to find that balance, to know when you need a break, though, because I think that when you're building your own business, you're constantly running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And sometimes you do need to just carve out literally an hour just for yourself to be able to focus on revitalizing and being able to come back that much stronger too. So it's,
Speaking of that, the whole process of energy and taking care of yourself, self-care. Yes. Tell me about your routine and how do you balance the life and work and your own, being healthy?
It's definitely a constant challenge and something that I'm always trying to take into consideration, especially when I'm traveling a lot. But for me, exercise it's in French, the exact translation, it's my oxygen. It's something that I absolutely need to feel well, because I find that it's all connected, the mind, body, spirit, etc. So I like to, each day when I wake up, I work for a little bit, because again, it's a question of self-awareness. I recognize that when I first wake up is when I almost have more creative energy, and it's like reason hasn't fully set in, and so you just feel this sort of flow, for me personally. And so that's when I write whatever I need to do that's creative. And then after that, I would at that moment then go out and either go for my run or spin class, etc. And then get back and do my work or go to whatever meetings I might have. And frequently it's, I do end up having to work late into the night, and my clients are on call, especially most of them are in Europe. And so with the time difference, I need to take that into consideration. But I try to, a few nights a week, make time to just go out with friends, and because that's also a big part of maintaining your overall well-being.
So what pearls of wisdom would you have told your younger self?
Oh goodness, that's a good question. It's a difficult one. I think I would say just have faith that everything is going to be okay. Just keep fighting though. And when you get tired, know that you will get through it. And my personal motto is that of the city of Paris, which is fluctuat nec mergitur, which means essentially, because the symbol of Paris is a ship, and it says that though the ship may be shaken by the waves, it will never sink. And so to have faith in my resilience.
I love that. Oh my God, what a beautiful analogy of the ship in Paris. It's always breathtaking to know how you can be so positive in life, and everything you have just said. I love positivity and great energy, and it just resonates with every part of your life.
Yeah.
So that pearl of wisdom is so crucial. Have you ever thought about that? Like, before I even asked you, have you ever thought about, if I was a younger self, does it?
It's funny because a few times I've thought about asking someone else that, but I never really asked myself. So thank you for
absolutely
for turning the tables.
I love doing that. People tell me, like, you're so natural at this. How long have you been doing it? I'm like, literally started my podcast a month ago, and I just feel like I'm like being an anchor or a newscaster. That's something that I would love to pursue in the future. But even like having conversations with women and bringing out their authentic self, I think that's like the secret in everything. Because for the most, like, when we grow up, we want to be someone else. We want to be like that other girl in a magazine or walking down the street. Oh, she has a perfect life. But no, you are perfect. You are enough. And once you accept that inner voice and how authentic you are free. Like that, those chains come off you.
That is such a beautiful point. And really, because even growing up, I always felt like I was a little bit different for whatever reason. Like, first of all, I loved fashion, so I'd wear whatever kooky thing that I wanted, and I sometimes still look back and think, why did my mother allow me out of the house wearing that? But in reality, I felt like, and a lot of entrepreneurs I find have that grain of, I'm not like everyone else, and that can be difficult at times to form the connections with people that share in that sentiment. But when you do find people that feel that way, it's really, I hate to use the word magical, but that's what it is. It's so precious, it's so meaningful, and it just takes time to learn how to value your differences, what makes you so unique, and to recognize that that's really what's going to help set you apart and make you go forward.
And that's what you're going to be passed down to the younger generation. And that's our purpose, to give them a reason to believe in themselves, not to give up. And no matter how hard it can get, it's not all pink rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. It's not, So what attributes to your success?
Aside from the resilience and the constant curiosity, I think it's just that my overall optimism and my quest to remain to recognize really who I am and to try to make one person a day smile. I know just when you're coming from that mentality of that you want to bring light to this world and joy from whatever scale you can, I think that it shifts the mindset from how do I change me to how can I just bring more positivity. And I think it's a powerful thing that people pick up on and appreciate. So it's a little bit of...
that's beautiful. I don't know if you're going to give me the same answer if I ask you what makes a woman, because it is a podcast about that. And what do you think in your eyes?
So I happen to love being a woman. I find there's a great deal of power in all the elements that make us so feminine, in everything from our greater sense of empathy, generally speaking. Of course, there are exceptions for men, for instance, that have that as well. But if as a woman, you can tap into that natural emotional intelligence that I think we're given, and also to embrace all our feminine aspects while maintaining strength. I think that is the most beautiful thing. And I've always been really drawn to women that embody both that sense of delicate and beauty, and also, yes, that strength that lies within them.
That's beautiful. I love the way you just combine the both together.
Thank you.
So I do have a question about you being in the marketing space. Have you considered being a contributor to magazines? Is that something where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So it's a difficult question, because I think that I'm always questioning my next step. Because and I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel this way, that you need to constantly have novelty in your life, whether in your personal life or your career, and you always want to grow and evolve. So for that, I'm still wondering. I'm considering doing a very big research project and publishing a book or creating a conference around that. But I'm fully open to other opportunities, and I think what I love is building brands. I think that's really one of my strengths. And so just applying that either to build my own brand, another project, or helping someone else bring their vision to life. But it really is very open still.
So now when you tell me about building a brand, what do you mean when someone's listening to that? Do you mean by hiring a PR? Do you mean, how do you go about building a brand in a nutshell?
So I see branding as everything regarding not only the aesthetics, the tone of voice, really creating the personality of this company that you want to build. If someone, for instance, has a project where they want to create a new line of shoes, okay, then who exactly is the target consumer, and what is the product itself that you want to create? Okay, now let's define what is the personality of this brand, who's going to wear it, and what's going to be, if we could create a mood board that really symbolized what this brand stands for, what would that look like? And then you create everything about the packaging and the designing the space in which it would be presented, who are the right people, the retailers that should stock it, should it be direct to consumer, what would the website look like, all these different things that really within 5 seconds of looking at one of these elements, someone can understand who you are as a brand. That I really love.
Wow, absolutely. I can definitely agree with you and everything you said, especially when you set the tone. Setting a tone so everybody can recognize, the bag that you're carrying. Oh, that's the color that belongs to so-and-so.
Yes.
Like Tiffany's. I mean, who can ever miss Tiffany's on the street, right?
Right. Do you know the story of how that Tiffany blue was chosen, actually?
No, please tell us.
I love this little anecdote. It's very interesting. But Apparently, so it was Mr. Tiffany himself in the 1800s that had heard that the Empress Eugenie had chosen this color as her official color. And so immediately he, being a very strong marketer, decided, I need to use that on my catalogs and my products. And so he decided to take that color and infuse it with his brand. And actually, over time, eventually, Tiffany went to Pantone and developed the color and the number of the colors the year they were established. And so, yeah, it was just this, because he understood that if everyone wanted to follow her style, etc., and he applied it to his brand, then people would automatically have that association, be drawn to it.
He basically seduced everyone.
Yes.
Indirectly.
Yes. I mean, isn't that a lot of what marketing is creating this game of seduction, of just appealing to the senses and drawing people in.
The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene.
Yes.
I love that book.
I just ordered it. I haven't read it yet, though.
Oh my God. I've listened to it on audio.
Uh-huh.
I've, I think, 3 times over and over. And I know by heart all the character, meaning all the personalities that person carries. You know, you can be a charmer, you can be a natural, you can be a dandy. It's just beautiful the way he just... You get to know a lot of people, and through his eyes of Robert Greene, and you make a lot of friends through that way. You know, you need to find out who you are. You choose that. You can be a charmer, you can be a dandy, you can be a natural, and then you position yourself in the community, in the society that way. Like, and what are your strengths? You know, and you can tell, you can see vividly who you're dealing with. Like, if I'm speaking to someone, like, okay, he's such a dandy, so his traits will be this, and that. So there's a lot that comes into play. And when they do say that, read a book that can inspire you and change your mindset, that book really changed a lot.
Well, I personally am fascinated by psychology and sort of the science of love. So lately, I know this is a bit geeky, I suppose, but I've been studying a lot about like neuroscience and human behavioral biology, because I just think it's so fascinating how we form connections with people. And so that's why I ordered the book, just to have another perspective on this entire topic, I guess. But yes, as you said, I think it's interesting to identify, you know, it's easy to put people in boxes, but it's easier to understand what we're experiencing, what we're sensing, and what another person is if we categorize things to a certain extent, knowing that there are, of course, you know, variations. But yes, it's a really interesting topic. So
I'm excited. I want you to read the book, and then on the next episode we can discuss it with perhaps another co-host.
Yeah, definitely.
And that would be so much fun. It would be a whole topic on seduction and how important it is. I think it's super crucial to have that characteristic and approach to life. You know, you don't seduce to do harm. You seduce in order to give life. You know, that's how I look. Like whatever you said about Tiffany, the blue color, he made it like this. He built an empire on that. Yeah. And he used it towards the good.
Yes. I mean, people want to dream.
Right.
And I think that when you say the art of seduction, it's really, yes, it's in this way that, not in some unhealthy whatever, it's really the question of allowing people the chance to, you make them shine, you make them feel like they can dream, and you're connecting with them in some way. And so that's what I think is really beautiful. And I think that the French are masters of that. I really believe that. And it's all about these small subtleties in body language and nuances in words. And I mean, just because I have this experience that inspired me to write a book, that I recognize that especially French men even have a way with words that I have not seen in other cultures to this point. Just, it's at times that you have to laugh, because it's just they can be so inspiring to say something so poetic. And as a woman, of course, like, you know, as a hopeless romantic in particular, you can't help but be charmed by that. But yes, I think that there's a lot to learn from their culture with regards to the art of seduction.
Yes, I do have great experience with Frenchmen as well. I can definitely understand. It's a beautiful culture.
Yes.
Well, on that note, where can they find you, our listeners, to order the book, perhaps? And I wanted to get to in every hand.
Well, thank you very much. So Swiping for Prince Charming is available at Amazon, on Barnes & Noble's website, or at Target as well. So you can access it through these 3 different media. And otherwise, you can find my company's Graphite and Ink, or you can find me swiping for princecharming.com.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's really been lovely.
Thank you for making the time. It has been really awesome. And whoever is listening and will be inspired by this podcast, you guys follow Sabrina. She is amazing and super inspirational. Thank you.